Welcome back to Founders in the Field, the show where we go behind the scenes with agency leaders, consultants, and creative founders to show you how they're building, scaling, and staying sane in the trenches. I'm your host, Stefan Bradley, and today's guest is John Hall, owner of Find the Ethos Marketing Consultants and is a strategy consultant at Partner and Hawes. How are you doing today, John?
I am doing excellent, thank you.
Right, let's dive straight in. For people who don't know your story, take us right back to the start of your journey and what made you get into this business and start your own business, and give us an overview of what your role looks like today inside both companies.
My journey really started, in essence, with working for a company in Canada called Cassette Communication Marketing. We were Canadian, we're independent, we're also the largest communication marketing company in the nation. What made us really unique was we were built on the premise of you have to integrate all your marketing tactics. And that was a core differentiator from any other agency in the market back then. Our operating model was rooted in this idea of orchestration between tactics. And I grew up in that and eventually made it to the general manager of the Vancouver office. And then from there, I became managing partner. We owned Dare Digital out of the UK and brought them to, and it was a great, great journey that was formative in developing my career and stoking my entrepreneurial roots. We're very much an entrepreneurial firm. Saying that, we did get bought. And after we got bought, I left, went to McCann Erickson as a senior vice president in media innovation. And the holding company for is not a good place, and left there and started my own consultancy and went client side working in education, post-secondary education. It was great like that. But during that time, I started my own consultancy on the side and was taking on clients, helping them with, senior marketing leadership. They couldn't afford it. This is the, essence of, fractional CMO, if you will. And along that journey, I met up with my colleagues from Cassette, and specifically one that started Partners in Haas. And we started working together almost 6 years ago. And I would say I do probably 80% of my work through with Taya and her team at Partners in Haas.
Some journey there, John, definitely.
It's a good journey, but it really is a journey of entrepreneurism for sure.
It sounds like you've gained so much experience from different aspects of being an entrepreneur as well. So what does your role look like today in your day-to-day sort of life, any day-to-day in the business?
Ironically, amidst all the change that we're talking about, my world is very much, my hands-on role is still very much orchestration. It's very much the idea of, you need to have all your platforms running and working together, because if they're not, you're going to be penalized. And essentially, that's kind of the focus of what I do is, I take in client briefs, I work with clients, and I try and break down the silos that are impeding their progress and impeding their getting better results. And I'm trying to educate them as much as possible on, the underlying changes that we're seeing in the market right now. The essence of the marketing playbook, for which we all grew up on with that drive to a web strategy, has kind of disappeared with organic search being down as much as it is. It's peak website visitation, probably well in our rearview mirror by 12 months or so. How do you start to communicate to people and make sure that they're seeing your message? You need it to be.
Sounds like you're ahead of the curve, because it sounds like what you started with, orchestrating, making sure everything's singing off the same hymn sheet and is still valid like today from an hour it was at the start. So it sounds like you were definitely ahead of the curve, and it's something that's definitely stuck.
It really is. And I have a chuckle with my partners at Partners in Haas. It's like everything has changed, but nothing has changed. And the core from a buyer standpoint, from a user standpoint, it still comes down to, context. It still comes down to differentiation. It still comes down to relevance. And, if you can deliver on those three assets, you can really make an impact for clients.
I spoke to somebody not so long ago, and they said the similar thing. They said marketing hasn't actually changed. It's just the vehicles that enable us to get the message out has changed slightly, but the actual messaging the core precipice that you're trying to do is the same. Communicating over a large scale.
Well, it's so true. I think it's very nicely put, but I think that's exactly true. And within that, the value of brand, because left to our own devices, left to AI developing brands after brands after brands, we're going to be a quick race to the bottom where everything looks and smells the same. So having that brand authority that we talked about earlier, it becomes really, really critically important. Having that distinctiveness, having that authorship of a brand that is rooted in human truth and human needs becomes essential. Becomes essential for companies to be discovered and preference to be made.
I feel like that's so true. Even that, like more so now with the way like so AI and how things are happening now, where you can end up sounding very, very similar because everyone's got access to these tools wasn't possible for companies to do this. Smaller companies, one man bands, solopreneurs, all of them have this baseline of tools that they can use, which were not possible before. So I feel like branding and getting your brand awareness out is even more important in today's age than it probably was even then back before, even though it obviously was still important back then. But I feel like now it's like very important. And some people, businesses, because you might not see an instant return. The branding's hard to measure ROI, but it's in the long term. It's in the bottom of the funnel type of thing that you're going to see it over the long run.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Without doubt.
So, John, what are the biggest trends that you're seeing inside the market?
I think the biggest trend right now where I'm focused on is obviously you can't, there's a couple things I guess happening, but it's all being driven by AI. The mega merger of the holding companies and the incredibly sad layoffs that came a couple weeks ago. All driven by AI, all driven by efficiencies. I mean, everyone is trying to make sense of what's going on. My view was when, 16, 18 months ago, it just seemed so big. It seemed so big, it was kind of overwhelming. And I chose a lane to kind of focus in on for myself that I thought might be the most interesting. I wasn't fixated necessarily on when AI first came out, everyone was really interested in, I can create a cat smoking a cigar wearing a hat. Isn't this cool? And I knew that wasn't really going to be germane to my business. What I wanted to understand was how was it impacting brands and customer journeys? Because when you start using Chat GPT or Perplexity or Claude, you're truly entering into a different realm. And if people aren't going to websites, and how does that manifest yourself? And as marketers, how can you counsel to clients what what impact that has, and how do you strategize and build your client's business up so it is a more discoverable brand? So a lot of what we've talked about earlier, but that's kind of where my trend is and where I'm focusing on, the impact of LLMs, the impact of AI overviews that they're having on business results, the impact of, agentic bots that are going to be putting forward, recommendations on which product to buy. These are all incredibly disruptive grassroots issues that every client I work with needs to get their head around for sure.
No, definitely. And like you said, it's disruptive because it literally changes how from like, people more focused on like SEO and things like that to where now, even though it's I would still say it's probably at the, grassroots sort of level at the moment. I don't know how much of the market. Someone told me it was only 1% of the market, but you can definitely feel like the way people search for things is changing and it's going to continue to change. So I feel like it's good, definitely good that you're looking at this now as opposed to, because by the time it actually really, really takes off and everybody's doing that, it's too late by that point.
I had a client where I wrote a website brief for them. It was probably 6, 7, maybe 8 months ago. And we had client developed personas and they were excellent. But I plopped a different persona in, and it changed the cadence of the discussion. And persona was, it's a bot. Your number one persona is a bot. You have to think like a bot, which is really hard as human beings, but it's logical, it's structured, it is very binary and strict in terms of how it is going to scrape that information. So we need to, when we're developing any from short form blog content to building websites, we need to make sure the underlying technicals are in place, that bot persona will find the brand and find the website.
I've never actually thought of it like that, and that's so true, because a lot of the time when you're designing any type of copy, whether that's website, anything, you're thinking of, a persona, an avatar of a human, and then you're thinking of the emotional triggers that you're trying to and their belief systems and things like that, and yeah, of course, that will completely change if it's AI that's actually making them decisions. So yeah, it is definitely a flip of the way of thinking about and the way you design things now, if you're looking at it from that type of viewpoint, as in like like for our website, for example, if they're going to buy something, if it's an AI going through it and it's picking the best one, it's going to look at it a lot more logically as opposed to emotionally as a human would.
And that's in a in a nutshell, that's it. You need the need state from a human standpoint and the logic state of a bot. It's just a much more robust picture. You need to paint for the audiences. It's interesting. It's super interesting from that standpoint, and really kind of forces you to dig in a little bit deeper on your user experience and your technical builds.
I don't know whether it would be, obviously it's changing at the moment, but in the future, would that potentially be not easier, but slightly, where you don't have to try and guess human emotion or try and look at the human psyche? It's very more logical, a lot more in uniform, you know what I mean? It was all very much like that. So I'm not sure whether that would be, not easier, it's probably the wrong way, but it's definitely different.
Yeah, in terms of search queries and how people search for things through LLMs, what we have certainly seen is, people have walked away from the keywords, right? And they're now putting in longer form, more conversational queries, and they're doing that on Google. They're doing that on Claude. They're doing using specific hashtags on TikTok. It's searches essentially everywhere. They're using Google Lens to try and fix a problem. So there is, I think, in the near future, there will be a greater emphasis on, understanding intention. And where I think we're seeing that now is, it comes down to really trying to solve a problem. Because ultimately, if you go back to the beginning of the internet, what was the internet for? It really was to, you were bored. You went to the internet. You needed to find directions. You went to the internet. It was a problem solver. And I think arguably today it remains a very robust problem solver. And intention becomes incredibly important in terms of how you're understanding your audience if you're writing a blog. What is the problem that they are trying to find? Make sure your blog is structured. Have that secondary, make sure you're answering the conversational questions people are looking for and those follow-up questions that will come. And maybe, it's good to have an FAQ section at the end of your blog just to it will index well, and it will show very clear intention of what your blog is about and who you're trying to educate. And
Also, with like where you're speaking to an LLM and the LLM, and it's more conversational, you kind of have to like go further back in the process. So instead of like the keywords would be like the actual thing they're looking for. Whereas now, I suppose you have to sort of think, what's the conversation before that gets them to that keyword? Do you know what I mean? So actually like preempting what conversation they would have. So for example, like, radiator leak, they're not going to say valve, this, that, no, they're going to say, what do? I have this, and this. And you kind of have to take like go back in the thought process of the human of what they would actually say if this problem occurred to get the answer back. Do you know what I mean? That would be the key word for them to solve. So yeah, it's definitely interesting.
That's exactly it. And if you Google Lens is so good for that. And just like, I have this, you take a picture, what's going on? And, Gemini comes back with a crazy in-depth answer, and it's right most of the time.
Definitely changing. So, John, what is working well, and where do you still feel slight friction in both ethos and partners and horse?
I think what is working well is, having an origin story that is for me, that would be around this idea of integration or convergence or orchestration and being comfortable and working in that environment. For me, that's really well. I mean, it's back in the day when I was much younger. Fast Company came out with something that said, you need to hire T-shaped people. And a T-shaped person was deep in knowledge on one specific or two specific areas, but knows everything a little bit enough that you can interact with specific expertise in a particular discipline. That is always, I have been that person, and I think I continue to be that person. And that's my goal, is to make myself as useful as possible and to reinvent myself. So if I don't become old and obsolete. But I think that's kind of my goal, and that's what always worked for me. I know. So from that standpoint, my specialty would be, being able to orchestrate and work with clients and really dig in and understand where things are working, where they're not, and how to bring folks along to understand what that looks like from a campaign development standpoint. I think the hardest part right now is AI is so intimidating and it is so big that it's hard to bring people along on the journey. It is. It, it's an intimidating subject that scares people for good reason. Like, we have no idea where this is going. And, my gut tells me it's not going to be a good thing. My gut tells me at some point there's going to be pushback from humans, which would be great. My gut tells me there will need to be, regulatory guardrails in place, and that has to happen soon. But the subject matter itself is intimidating for people. And what I'm seeing in my role is the need to educate and to bring people along. And you need to educate in a way that doesn't get people, can't be too big of a subject. You can't be too Black Mary, or people's eyes will just glaze over and they kind of tune out. Because when you say, the marketing playbook you've been operating against for the last 18, 20 years is no longer working, it's easy to ignore that. They will go, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But they're still getting traffic to the website. They're still posting on, they still got an account manager posting organic, to Meta. And it's still, so I think what I'm seeing is people don't see the underlying inefficiencies that are out there, and the big holding company platforms make it easy to take money. They make it easy to see how things are performing, but the underlying current of what's going on is things aren't working as well as they used to, and they will continue to evolve very quickly. So this conversation we're having now would be interesting to do in 6 months and see what's changed.
I have to agree with you. That it's going to be different every 6 months, and I feel like the change is going to be big. Do you know what I mean? It's been big from the last 3 years to now. You know what I mean? I feel like it's only going to get faster and faster. And I think you're so right with people being intimidated by it and a little scared of it. And I feel like the less you know about AI, the less you understand and use it, I feel like the more scared you actually are, because it's like fear of the unknown as well. And to an extent, rightly so. Do you know what I mean? There is definitely things that I feel like need to change in the AI space, like regulations. And it's kind of hard at the moment because it's kind of like an arms race type of thing going on between the East and the West of who can create the best AI. That's what's, is troubling, in the sense of like there isn't many regulations, more so over in America and Canada and North America, and Europe have a little bit more regulation over here. But yeah, no, definitely there is cause for concern, definitely. But also I feel like the more people learn how to use it, the less scared they will be of it, because it will take jobs. Of course it will. It definitely will. But I feel like if you can, how to use it and how you can get it to work for you as opposed to replace you, I feel like it kind of takes away some of that fear.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we're into a different era of a different industrial revolution. I think that's the only way that we can make sense of it from a historical standpoint. But it's just so, it is, I keep saying it's black. I go to Black Mirror just because it can be such a head scratcher where you just need to turn what you know upside down. How do you feel? You work in the space. How
Mhm.
do you feel your clients are when they approach you? How are they talking about it, and how are they getting their heads around what needs to change?
Most clients I speak to are already, they want to implement it into their business because they see, they hear and they see how much efficient they can be. But a lot of them don't understand business. So a lot of people I speak to, and they're like, no, all my workers, they use ChatGPT to check things and stuff like that. But it's
Yeah.
like they have a kind of like the blinkers on a little bit to what it can do as opposed to business. But they, if they have no idea about it and a lot of the time I feel like they're a bit apprehensive over it because they don't. But as soon as you start dabbling in little things, like for example, that having your workforce use AI individually, then that's like the first kind of step they have where they're like, okay, this is okay. My business isn't flatlining from them using there. And then they can like sort of like spread their wings, the sort of thing, to embed more and more and more. Yeah, it's kind of like a little bit like a Wild West at the moment. It's kind of like, it's so new. Do you know what I mean? So new,
Hmm.
everything, the building workflows for companies, and embedding all these different types of things that it can do. It's definitely new, but I feel like more and more people are open to it, especially the ones that want to have like big ambitions. They want to progress. They're not trying to keep, the ones who are trying to keep are a little bit more like, no, I'm okay. The ones who really wanted to progress are a lot more open to it.
Yeah. It's so true, so interesting. Where I see it right now is, especially from workflows, it enables workers to have more human interaction. It's not necessarily logical, but it just makes you efficient on the mundane tasks. That frees up your time so you can actually have more time to engage with human beings. Which, if we can preserve that, if we can embed that in terms of how AI works, then that's a win. That's a win for companies, because ultimately I do believe the essence of business and marketing, consumerism and capitalism still has to be, gets human beings buying, and we need to spend more time engaging on a more personal level. So if we can continue to protect that and promote that, then that's a good thing. That's definitely a good thing for organizations.
I really agree with you there. I feel like what if we can automate the mundane, the boring, the tasks
Yeah.
that are input output, do you know what I mean? They're data in, data out, these type of things. Because let's talk turkey. No human likes doing these types of things. It's like
No.
innate. We don't like it. Like it's like against our brain to do this, to scan through, like maps and of like data and scan through these types of things. We all hate it. It's not something that anybody, I don't feel like feel like it's fun. So, and like, pushing things through. Did you, like, you might forget, human might forget, did you send that email? Oh no, didn't. Do you know what I mean? That time, having to remember this. I always like say it like the human brain is not a filing cabinet. It's not a Google Drive. It's not a Google
Yeah.
Drive. It can work as that, but it's not that efficient at that. It's much more better at communications, conversations, and that type of thing, and working things out. And I think using AI to not give you the final output, but using it to brainstorm, using it to challenge you and make you better at that aspect of it, while taking away the mundane and making it more efficient, I feel like can only have a good to society and to business. It's just whether we can hold it to that type of thing there, as opposed to letting it take over everything. Which, because I agree with you, I feel like human touch, you can tell when things have had a human touch, and just makes it sound more, it speaks more to you as a person. Do you know what I mean? Because it is coming from a person. Do you know what I mean? Obviously AI can help and
Absolutely.
definitely help you brainstorm, but using it as opposed to letting it do whatever it do the whole thing, I feel like is a much better way of doing it. Do you know what I mean? And like, it will take jobs, of course, but I try and explain to like people, like, if you have an account manager, okay, that kind of do 5 accounts at the moment, just say. So it's not going to get rid of that person, but it will allow that person to be able to take on more accounts and be more efficient. So he or she will be more efficient at doing 10 15 accounts than it would be at the 5 accounts, because it's almost got a second brain that's going to be like, I try and attribute to like having it like a nervous system throughout the business. Like when you pinch yourself, the nervous system tells you, "Ah, this is hurting here." And that's how I feel like AI should be. It's like, oops, something over there. Okay, I need to put my little attention over there and make sure that goes the way it should. And that's how I kind of vision it in my head.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good way to look at it. And, I, a good way, a good conversation to have with clients who are, just like worried about it and not too sure about it. I think that's a really nice way to look at it.
So, John, walk me through how your companies, both companies, use client acquisition or gain clients. What is that client acquisition process?
I'll focus in on P&H because mine tends to be just established referrals, people that know me. I've been around for long enough that it kind of pops in that way. Partners in Haas is, compete more in a agency world, specializing in branding and performance. So we have deep expertise in tourism and education. So those market sectors, we have the credibility in those. So that credibility and life experience in those categories allows us to compete. Generally, everything's going to bid. So we have to compete through an RFP process. The nice part of having a reputation and the knowledge of the brand in the market is we do get put on a lot of lists because of our track record. From there, it all comes down to, most of the stuff is procurement based. So you're writing RFPs and you're being evaluated on company history, expertise, case studies, and sadly, the financial component of it as well.
Is that Partner and Hall's more enterprise clients?
Yes. Yeah. I'm scale at a smaller level. I've gone in and helped bigger companies, but I would say I generally don't write RFPs where P&H definitely would compete
Yeah.
for this week.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, RFPs they're very long, aren't they, to write, and long, and like you have to get everything across that's gonna, because like you said, they're like they're bidded on by different companies, so it's like you have to get all your eggs in the row, all your, what I mean, like that, and it can be quite daunting and long.
I look at it this way: they are, you have to treat them the same way as you treat a piece of content. And, you need to make sure that you're understanding the audience motivation, where their pain points are, and how you can deliver on those pain points and make their life easier. And that's the essence of good RFP writing is treat it as content and make it easy for them to read. Because they're getting 15 of these, you don't want to make it difficult to read.
Definitely. So after they bid on that RFP, do they like book a call, or when does the human aspect come in where somebody's actually speaking like me and you are?
You get to a short list, generally 3 to 5. I hope that it's increasingly 3 because 5's a lot to go through for sure. And then you have it either in-person meeting or it's or Teams.
Yeah.
And then, that you basically, the request tends to be, you've got an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to hold the last 15 minutes for Q&A. Take us through your last proposal. Bring out the most salient points. We want to hear from all team members that are listed on the proposal. And, just, convince us why you're the best proposal.
Yeah, so it kind of goes straight into a presentation proposal type of thing once you go through the shortlisting, and once they pick if you get picked, I suppose, in the 3, then it kind of like sell it to us basically.
Yeah, and there's probably half the time, maybe more. There's a definite scorecard attached, and you will have someone from purchasing or procurement. You have someone from marketing and maybe the whole. So it'll be a mixed audience per se. So which is interesting from a marketing standpoint. If you have a non-marketer in the room, marketing is getting much more complex and difficult. So You need to make sure that you don't go, in terms of your content, you don't go too high level, but you also don't get too much in the weeds where you can lose audience members. So,
It's definitely still more things to think about, isn't it, during the power?
mhm.
Because if you're just speaking to marketers, you can go into specifics, and if you're speaking to a broader audience, you've got to cater for like the whole audience and make sure that they're understanding you and they're following you through at the same time. So
Yeah. And you have to make it entertaining and interesting, and let your team's personality shine. Because ultimately you're bidding on a future relationship. And when I was client side, I was certainly like, do these people know what they're doing? Is there good chemistry? And do I want to work with them? And that was kind of it. If I felt that I could work with this team and that they had lots to offer, and you know, that was kind of, if you're going to be spending, 15 hours, 10, 15 hours a week with somebody, you kind of want to like them and
mm.
respect them, and feel like you can do good things together. So it's the start of a relationship for sure.
Yeah. So John, my last two questions start with, where do you want to be in the next 12 to 18 months in terms of business?
I would love to be helping clients do what I'm doing right now. Honestly, it's just working with clients in a fractional sense, and coming in, working and molding their departments, helping them from achieving their top line objectives, but really, being at the forefront of the changes that we see today and where they're going tomorrow. And being able to be, I want to be operations, but I want to be educator. I want to be strategist. I want to be all those things, and kind of bring it all together. I love working inside organizations. It's really, really interesting. And every organization is different. Throughout my career, it's like you literally have the front row seat of a company, and you know what's going on, and you can tell which companies are going to do well and which companies aren't. You can do that really, really quickly, just because as marketers, as marketing partners, you're immersed inside an organization, and the truth comes out pretty quickly.
Definitely sounds like you enjoy what you do. So that's like a refreshing thing to hear as well. Do you know what I mean? That you've been doing this for so long and you're still are really passionate about it. So it's definitely a cool thing to hear.
It's the power of reinvention.
Mm.
And you continuously, I'm a curious fellow. So you continuously reinvent yourself and learn and learn and learn. 2 years ago, I did not think I would be going down and becoming, trying to figure out what comes after, traditional SEO. But here I
Mm.
am, and it's like, that was so interesting. So if it's stimulating, I love it.
Mm.
And I think that's the essence of why I do keep enjoying things. Plus, I like working with people. I like helping people. I think it's very, at the end of the day, that's really, really gratifying.
It's good attributes to have as well. If you enjoy your work, then you're going to keep producing good results as well because you're
Yeah.
enjoying doing it. So John, my last question is, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in your business or in the business that you work in, what would it be and why?
Well, that is a question that I think if I could do one thing, I think, there've been a lot of there's been a lot of layoffs in the marketing world in the last
Mm.
year. And I kind of feel that's twofold. I think that's AI and technology, but it's probably economy as well.
Mm.
And as you enter into a downward, marketing budgets in the first to go.
Mm.
Seen it throughout my career. Big layoffs happen. It's a discretionary spend and discretionary budget item that a lot of marketers will chop first, or a lot of
Mm.
companies will chop first. So I would love to see marketing be treated with more respect as a professional service. There was a day when I first got into the business, somebody said, "Yeah, marketing, you guys are the clowns of commerce." And
Charming.
it's like, yeah, that just tells me exactly where you view what we do, because it's an
Mm.
expense, it's a line item, it's money out the door. Why am I spending so much money on this, and where are the results? Marketing is fundamentally hard. Without marketing, without brand development, you're a commodity,
Mm.
and you're going to see your market share erode. So I would love to see the role of marketing and the role of chief marketing officers or director of marketing be accelerated and amplified in importance within organizations, because without marketing, without strong marketing departments, without strong marketing leadership, I think the acceleration of mediocre brands will, and the exposure of what they are will come to the forefront. Back in the day, there was a quote that said, "Nothing kills a bad brand faster than because it induces trial." And then people say, "Well, this thing's shite."
Yeah.
They move on. And I think we're in an age of discovery where discovery is going to happen quicker, and brands need to have their act together. And that's only going to be happen if marketing departments and marketing leadership are given the voice and the platform to do their jobs.
Of different answers from that hypothetical question all the time. I really love that answer, and it's so true. I mean, the people who do think like that, they don't understand the value of marketing as well. Do you know what I mean? Of what it can bring. And like you said, then that's a great point. Nothing kills an average brand faster than good advertising, because more people, that's the whole point of good marketing, good advertising, is to draw more people to your brand. Do you know what I mean? And if it's mediocre or substandard, that people are going to find out quickly. Do you know what I mean? But it just shows the power of good marketing as well. You know, that's what it does. It brings attention. It communicates a message to a lot of people, to the masses, if you will, and to get people to know who you are and to try your brand and to do this. So it's like, it's a kind of a double-edged sword. Like, it's the first thing to go, but it's actually the only thing that's probably going to grow at a speed, like, as opposed to anything else that they're going to try.
Yeah, totally. In this day and age, as you cut your marketing budgets, as the marketing rulebook changes, where's that going to leave you? Like in 2 years, where is that going to leave companies? Because they're going to be 2 years behind on knowledge acceleration curve that they've never seen before. It's a dangerous precedent, I think. And I feel for everybody who's lost a job, or whose business has dropped off, because it's just a very, very sad point in time for the industry.
Definitely. Well, John, thank you so much for coming on and giving us insight into the companies that you work with and your own company. It's been a pleasure, and I've learned a lot, so I've really enjoyed it. It's been.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it a great deal, and always happy to have those conversations, because it's, as I said earlier, sometimes it's hard to have the conversation with people because they don't want to have those conversations.
So where can my viewers and listeners reach out to you?
If you can, I'll give you my John at partnersandhaas.com is my email address, and my LinkedIn. Oh my God, I don't know what my address. I'm the ultimate guilty individual who's had his website, building his website for the last 2 years, and I've yet to publish. So probably John at Partners and Haas, or find the ethos at gmail.com.
Everyone that's listening, that's where to reach out to John. And if you can like, comment, subscribe, and send to a friend that you think this will help, this will find interesting, that would be great. John, it's been a pleasure. I wish you all the best in your day, and I appreciate you coming on so early.
Thank you very, very much. I enjoyed it. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.